Hello and welcome to our San Bernardino County Town Hall. A little housekeeping before we begin. Everyone is muted during the webinar. All webinars are recorded and sent to all attendees after the webinar has concluded, along with a PDF copy of the slides. There will be Q&A at the end of the presentation today, but please feel free to ask your questions during the webinar by clicking on the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Once the presentation concludes, I will ask the questions presented in the Q&A box. I may not get to everyone's questions, but we will do our best. If we don't get to your questions, please call 800-616-7232. I will also put this number in the chat box. Over to you, Mike.
Thank you so much, and good morning, everybody. We're going to talk a lot about your business, what's happening in your business, different types of loan programs, different types of recovery products that are available to you, and really thinking of a recovery strategy. So I'd like to introduce Supervisor of the First District, Robert Lovingood, to address the audience. So welcome.
Thank you, Mike. Good morning, everyone. I think we realize kind of the critical impact that the virus has had on our small business community and the adversity that you're each facing. It's been a continued struggle. But the San Bernardino County continues to monitor really the virus conditions and recognizes the impact of the pandemic. The impact, again, to your business. And we want you to know that, one, we have resources available to help navigate the programs that have been put forward. The Trump administration has delivered the PPP program. I know some of those did not qualify, but hopefully there's still the potential for additional funding that you continue to seek that. The county, at the same time, has a number of web-based programs and resource information designed for individuals and businesses. These resources cover everything from technical and financial sources to information from utility partner agencies and nonprofit funding sources. We appreciate the work of OCIE, SBDC, and that's Orange County Inland Empire Small Business Development, to help small businesses that have been negatively impacted by the disease. We're thankful for their time today to help us all navigate the latest financial resources that are available to local employers. And again, Mike, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Supervisor. Next, I'd like to introduce Richard Vaughn from the Economic Development Department from the County of San Bernardino.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for the introduction. Hello, everyone. We just wanted to thank you, Mike, and the team here at SBDC, Supervisor Lovingood, and all who are in attendance today. Economic Development is here to assist you with your business needs. We provide a wide array of business support services, including retention, attraction, foreign direct investment, opportunity zones, tourism, and technical assistance, just to name a few. If you have any questions about other business resources outside of what SBA and SBDC is providing here in the webinar, please feel free to reach out to us. We can schedule one-on-one meetings virtually, of course, and help guide you to the right resources. You can reach out to us via our phone number, 909-387-4460. That's 909-387-4460, or our website at www.selectsbcounty.com, where you can also find a list of our resources available for download. We've also created a COVID-19 webpage on our website with all pertinent business information and resources to help during these tough times. And we're here to assist in any way possible, so please feel free to reach out. Thanks, Mike.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Richard. And so as I go through this presentation, I'm going to share a lot of information. So I do have my question and answer box open, so feel free to ask questions as I'm going through. I will try to take them as I'm going, but we will definitely get to them at the end. So, ask whatever you think you need. And then at the end, as Richard said, the county is open, to help you in any way possible, and as are we, working directly with the county. So as we get started, just a little bit about the Small Business Development Center. We are a federally funded program through the Small Business Administration, here to help you one-on-one with your business. Typically, in typical times, we're helping people start, grow, and exit out of their businesses. During this time, it's really how do we survive and how do we recover? We have 100+ consultants spread throughout 8 centers throughout the Inland Empire and Orange County. Our job is to help you. The great part is that we're funded by the federal government, the state of California, and several other entities that our services don't cost you anything. They've already been paid for. So please utilize us as you need it. And as you hear some of this, the hope is that we can start to build that relationship and help you, really recover in your business as we're moving forward. So with that, a little bit about myself. So I own a couple of Rocky Mountain chocolate factories in both Huntington Beach and Long Beach, and a candy store as well. And probably similar to most people on this call, my business was, affected, and, all three of my businesses were shut down. March 12th is when we decided to close our businesses. I laid off 25 employees, really trying to figure out what is the next step? What do we do? How am I going to make it through this? And probably just like you, just concerned and don't know what to do as far as where we're at. So as I go through this, I want you to take it in steps. And yes, we're all panicked as to how we move forward. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of help. There's a lot of assistance. People want to help you get through this. So asking for help, asking for advice, asking for all those things, that's exactly what you should be doing right now. So as I go through this, I want to start with 3 things that you should be doing already. If you do have a brick and mortar, or you're in an office space and you are currently have a lease, I want you to start to try to negotiate that lease, and you probably already have, right? We're on our third round of payment, right? April was the beginning lease time when most of our businesses were closed. April, and then May came, so you hopefully worked with your landlord, possibly you got your lease abated, maybe you got it deferred. An abatement really means that they're taking some funding or money off of the lease of how much you owe. So if you typically owe $5,000, they're going to reduce it down by $2,500 or $2,000 or $1,000 or whatever that might be. Most people were very unsuccessful with that in the first month, and I was as well. But continue to have that conversation with your landlord. The second piece would be a deferment, which would be they're not going to take anything off of the amount that you owe, but they are going to push it back, right? So they'll allow you to not pay rent this month, or 50% of the rent, and push that other amount back, 6 months, 8 months, 12 months onto the back end of your lease. Those are really your 2 options. Other people are working off of a percentage-based rent when they open, and having that conversation of, when I reopen, can I just pay you 10% of my sales up to the total amount of rent? So there's a lot of different strategies that you can take, but you need to have that conversation with your landlord, and you need to keep it positive, as hard as that is to say, and as hard as that is to do sometimes. Your landlords might be hurting as well, but keep the conversation positive, because the minute it goes negative, they have the potential to cut you off and not have that conversation anymore. So, work with us. We'll try to help you craft that conversation. The next piece is existing loans. If you have an existing loan in your business, call your lender and try to get that deferred. Most lenders are deferring it for up to 3 months without any more than an email or a call. So have that conversation. And then the last thing is insurance. I want you to look at your insurance policy for your business. Most people have liability insurance. About 30% of businesses have something called business income or business interruption insurance. And that's really what I want you to focus on. Is if it says business income or interruption insurance, you have the ability to file a claim. And so that claim should cover if your business was shut down by the government, was shut down because of a virus, you should have the ability to recoup some funding. Now, most insurance companies aren't going to give you anything. In fact, I have business income insurance for all 3 of my locations. I was denied within an hour with a form letter that says you've been denied. All the congressional districts throughout California have written a letter to the Insurance Commissioner of California to fight this and to make the insurance companies come forth with supplying funding for this type of insurance. And so this is going to be a long court battle, is my guess. So if you don't file a claim and there's a court battle and there's a settlement and a judgment won at some later date, you won't receive anything. To file a claim takes about 1 minute to 2 minutes. It's an online piece that you can fill out through your insurance company. Call your broker if you're not sure, but it doesn't take very long, and it's not going to increase your insurance policy. It's not going to do anything other than the fact that you're saying that I was affected by this, and that possibly at some other date, there might be some settlement. But most insurance companies right now are saying nothing as far as giving any settlement. So like I said, there's probably going to be a court battle for a long period of time. So you want to make sure that you at least got in on that. I want to briefly kind of cover these 3 different loan programs that come through the Small Business Administration or the SBA, and just give you a little more understanding of what these are. So the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, also given the name EIDL, the Paycheck Protection Program, also known as PPP, and then the SBA Small Business Debt Relief Program. So let's start with the EIDL program, and that goes directly through the SBA. This program has been in existence for more than 40 years. This is what happens when there is a disaster in any part of the country, whether it be a hurricane, a tornado, a flood, a fire. This is typically when the SBA comes out and they become a direct lender. It's the only time that the SBA is actually a lender. And so they lend money. The base rate of this loan is a 30-year loan at 3.75% interest. And I put up here so that you can see what it would cost on these different rates, right? So if you were able to borrow $25,000 for 30 years at 3.75%, it'd be roughly $116 a month. For $100,000 at 30 years at 3.75%, it'd be roughly $463 a month. Now, this loan goes up to $2 million, and you apply directly through the SBA's website. So it's sba.gov is the best way to get there. And then from there, you can navigate down to the economic injury disaster loan. Our team can help you fill this application out. Now, just to give you a little more insight to this loan, it came out early in March, and then they changed it March 30th. So there's two different forms of this application. They tried to make it much easier and streamlined it. Typically, when there's a disaster that hits, it affects a few counties, it affects a region, possibly a whole state. Never has the federal government and the SBA and this program gone through the entire country all being affected at the exact same time. So that's the hard part here. So that's exactly what we want to try to help, and is help them through this process by making it streamlined. And that's what they did. They pushed this out. And so there are millions of businesses in the queue. So if you filled this out and you haven't heard anything back, be patient. They are getting to it. There's currently about 2.5 million applications still in the portal. They're getting through roughly 1,000 to 1,500 applications every hour. But that, it takes a long time to get through this. So the EIDL loans currently are not being accepted. They are closed off to businesses as they go through this. The only businesses that can apply currently are agricultural businesses. And I see the question, so you're spot on. But if you did already apply and you would have gotten an application number that started with a 2 or an application number that started with a 3. They're working through them. We have clients that we're working with that applied, March 30th, April 1st, April 2nd, they're starting to receive some funding. Now, as of March 30th, if you have an application number that starts with a 3 on it, the SBA added an extra component that's called the advance portion of it. So the advance part is an up to $10,000 advance based on the number of employees that you have in your business. So if you filled out this shortened application and it has a 3 on the application number that you received back, you would have had the opportunity to apply for this. You would have given them your bank account number and the number of employees that you have. If you did that, there's a good chance that you're going to get up to $10,000 based on however number of employees you had. So if you put 5 employees, you probably get a $5,000 advance. If you put 7, you get 7, up to $10,000 until this funding runs out. But that's an advance, and if you spend it correctly, if you spend it on your payroll, if you spend it on your accounts payable, your rent, anything like that, it will be forgiven. Okay, so that's the only forgiveness part of this EIDL loan that it currently exists. But I know that there's so many people in this portal, it's taking a long time to get through, so you do have to be patient, but this is really meant for a long-term strategy, right? This is over a 30-year period. You can see the payments are very reasonable. And in fact, they're the cheapest loan rate on the market by about half. And so this is a really good loan for you to think about through survival and then recovery over the next 30 years. And so if you need help going through this, we do have a call every day at 3 o'clock where we have somebody from the SBA disaster team on this, talking people through this process and talking about what's going on currently. So that's a little bit about the economic injury disaster loan. The next one is the Paycheck Protection Program. So this is really designed and was designed to help you keep your current employees employed rather than putting them on unemployment. Now, obviously we know that with California really being the first state to declare a disaster, this program is a little bit different for California, and it has affected California differently than other states. And so it's really meant to be a loan for 2 years at 1% and up to $10 million, but it's for your payroll. It's to keep your current employees. And so that's, if you spend the money on your payroll, at least at 75% of it, and then the other 25% on rent, utilities, accounts payable, things like that, the whole thing has the ability to be forgiven. But if your business closed and you're trying to rehire your employees back, it's very different, right? You might not have that ability to do that. So if you're not able to get this forgiven, it becomes a loan, a 2-year, 1% loan. So I need people to understand that. It's not just free money, here you go, figure out how to do this. The 8-week forgiveness portion of this starts the day you receive funding. So if you've already received funding, you haven't started spending it down, you only have those first 8 weeks to do it. Otherwise, it all turns into a loan. If only a portion of this becomes forgiven, the other part turns into a loan. So if you're not sure what to do, if you haven't received it yet, if you're still looking to figure out, does this fit my business? Let's talk through that. For my business, my businesses, 2 of mine are still closed. So it doesn't make a lot of sense for me to bring my employees back that are on unemployment, possibly even making more on unemployment than I can pay them. So you really need to pencil this out to make sure that this makes sense for you Otherwise, if it turns into a loan, that's exactly what you have, right? You do have to pay it back. So that's a little bit about the Paycheck Protection Program. Now, it's a calculation as far as how much you could qualify for. It's taking your 2019 payroll, dividing by 12, and then multiplying by 2.5. There's some other nuance to it, and I won't go deep into the different pieces because there's so much information on it, but we can definitely work with you one-on-one to help you figure out exactly what it is for your business. Now, for this loan, unlike the EIDL loan, this you go through traditional lenders, right? So you're going to go through all the big lenders. There's a lot of community-based lenders that are out there. There's still money available. So if you haven't applied yet and you feel like this would benefit you and your business, we can help you through that process, but you're going to want to apply pretty quickly. There's estimations that this money will be exhausted by the end of this week. So making sure that you're working through this process. If you are in the queue for a lender, call that lender. You definitely don't want to apply to a whole bunch of different lenders. That's what we're seeing is some companies that apply to multiple lenders are getting stuck in the process because the SBA kind of stops it in its tracks when multiple applications from the same exact EIN number get uploaded into their system. But if you were to qualify or your payroll was $120,000 for 2019, you would qualify, divided by 12, multiplied by 2.5 for $25,000. If your payroll was $1.2 million in 2019, divided by 12, multiplied by 2.5, you qualify for up to $250,000. Now, keep in mind, you have 8 weeks to spend this for the forgiveness part of it. So you have to spend all of that on payroll, so at least 75% of it. The other 25% could be on other things like rent, interest, and things like that for it all to be forgiven. So that's a little bit about the Paycheck Protection Program. The next thing is the SBA Small Business Debt Relief Program. So this is a program that came out directly from the SBA, directly to SBA government guaranteed lenders. So if you currently have a loan from a lender that is an SBA 7A 504 or microloan, starting March 27th, so back date, to March 27th, the SBA is going to pay that loan off for you. Fees, the principal and the interest is all paid for by the SBA to your lender. It's not deferred. They are paying it for you over the next 6 months. So again, an SBA 7A 504 or microloan. If you're not sure what you have, if you have a current loan, you definitely want to check the paperwork, call your lender, call me, I'll help you figure it out. But if you do have a current loan through an SBA product, it's going to be paid for over the next 6 months. And then the next step is really unemployment and the EDD. And I know it is so frustrating working with the EDD right now. They are completely overwhelmed. I believe there's about 4 million people that are trying to get through EDD for unemployment insurance or some version of what you see on the screen right now, which would be disability insurance, unemployment insurance, paid family leave. Most people do fit into the unemployment insurance portion of this. I know that I have some employees that applied the middle of March that still have not received any benefit. They are overwhelmed as well, as obviously. And so unemployment insurance lasts for 39 weeks and you qualify for up to $450 a week. Now, pandemic unemployment assistance came out from the federal government to the state of California, and that started 2 weeks ago, where independent contractors, sole proprietors, people that weren't paying into the system could also apply for what's called pandemic unemployment assistance, and that's $600 a week, and that's for the next 16 weeks. So if you already have unemployment insurance, you'll get up to $450 plus the $600. If you are an independent contractor, sole proprietor that weren't paying in, and then you were not paying into the system, you will receive the $600 a week for the next 16 weeks. Okay, so that's tremendous funding going to people on unemployment. Now, a lot of people aren't receiving any unemployment, and so continue to work through the system. You can try to call. I know that's completely frustrating, and I think they have a live number that's only open 5 days a week for 4 hours at a time. It's really frustrating, but continue to try to do that. If you have the ability to bring your employees back and you're ready to open, you got the PPP loan, maybe that's benefit to everybody. But if not, you do want to continue to work through that system, and it is retroactive. So if you have employees that haven't been paid yet, and even though they applied, they will pay back date, but I realize that for a lot of employees, they don't have enough money to get through even tomorrow. So trying to help them through this is a difficult task. And now I really want to talk, as we're kind of in the stage right now of survival. We're trying to survive where we're at. And now we're trying to really understand, what does recovery look like? I want to talk about recovery strategies for your business. Every business is a little bit different. Some businesses were allowed to open. Some businesses are not allowed to open. Some have been, defined as far as essential, non-essential. So I really want to kind of talk through some of these things and some of these issues, as it's different for everybody and it's different county by county. as different counties have different rules and regulations that they're putting in place based around the governor's orders. So let's start with the 4-part plan to reopen. This is from the governor's office, okay? So there's stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and stage 4. And so currently through the governor's office, we are on stage 2, where we've allowed retail to open with curbside pickup only, and then a few other things. So we want to make sure that you're following what these rules and regulations are. You know, if you do things and you decide to open your business, you know, and you're not in stage 2, let's say you're stage 4, you're stage 3, you know, I'm not here to tell you, you know, that, you know, the legalities of this, other than the fact that, you know, if somebody gets hurt in your place of business and you're already open and you shouldn't be, then your workers' comp won't be covered, your liability insurance won't kick in. You know, you just need to know what the facts are and what's covered and what's not. You know, and you want to make sure that you're abiding by the rules and regulations that have been set forth, you know, for your business and for the county and for the state of California. So these are the stages. So as I go through this, we're going to talk about what this looks like. You know, so in businesses, and I'm sure many of you have seen this already, whether you've gone to the market, you've gone to a restaurant, you've gone to different things. You know, as we look at what social distancing is going to look like, you need to understand what that's going to look like in your place of business and start to prepare for what that's going to be. You know, it's one thing on the bottom left of this screen to look at a market and be able to social distance when you have a 30,000 square foot facility to do that in. You know, you possibly like myself, we have a 1,000 square foot store. It's really hard to do things like this. So one of the things that I've done, we were allowed to reopen. And so we cut people off right at the door and they're allowed to come up to the door to order. And then we go grab the order for them. But restaurants, right? I mean, are you ready for something that looks like this, where seats are set up and every other seat is blocked off? You know, or a restaurant that looks like this on the left that was previously crowded in every single seat, now is going to look like this on the right. So we need to think through what some of these things will look like as we move to the future. So in your place of business, you know, what does social distancing look like? How can you make sure that customers feel safe when you're in your place of business? And so some of the things that we're working with restaurants on are, you know, menus. People aren't going to want to touch menus anymore. So there's a lot of technology out there that's available that either doesn't cost you anything or is low cost, where people can order directly off of their phones. They can pay off their phones. They don't really have to touch anything when they're allowed to come back into your restaurant. Currently, they are not. They can. It's only, you know, pickup and delivery is the only thing that's allowed currently. But you know, as you kind of rethink your restaurant, it's going to be very different. And then, can you get supplies? Can you get all these different things that are available to you? If you have a retail storefront, you know, what does that look like? How do you protect your employees? And so a lot of you guys have seen this new plexiglass to protect your employees from the customer and vice versa. You know, you can see that she doesn't have a mask on. And then on the right side, you have hair salons and nail salons, which are not allowed to be open yet. But what is that going to look like for your business if you happen to be one of those locations? How do you take care of your employees? How do you take care of your customers? These are all things that you need to start thinking about as a recovery plan for your particular business. Can you get gloves for your employees? Can you get masks? Are you going to require masks from the people that come into your place of business? So all things that you need to start thinking about. You know, this is a really interesting stat to me as we look at capital and cash in businesses. So the average small business has 27 days of cash, but when you break it down by industry, you look at restaurants, repair, retail, they're really kind of at the top end of this where they only have 16 to 19 days of capital in their business. Well, we exhausted that, you know, 45 days ago, right? So how do we make sure that we have enough capital? And I know that there's a lot of other programs outside of just those federal programs that cities are working on, the counties are working on, the state of California is working on to help you in your business. The state of California has just launched a new program where if you've been turned down by the Economic Injury Disaster Loan or the Paycheck Protection Program, you can apply for up to $50,000 for a loan. Similar, it's prime plus one, so it's roughly about 4.75% right now, amortized over a 7 to 10 year period. But there are other loan programs out there. So if you weren't successful in the first couple, give me a call. Let me help you try to figure out if there's other capital for you. And there's been some grants. We launched a grant last week. It was a very small grant. There were about 15 grants for $5,000, but you're starting to see those types of things happen. And so we just want to make sure that you're prepared and ready for some of those different types of things. And I think the understanding from the federal government all the way down to your city government is that they understand and they're trying to help in any way possible. And so you're going to start to see a lot of different creative things happen. And I know from the federal government side, you know, the Paycheck Protection Program will not be the last program that is offered. We've had a lot of conversations around a Main Street Business Program, around other things. So I think you're going to start to see as we recover what's going to start to come out. So as we go through this, the one thing I really want you to do, I think it's vitally important in your business, is to do something that looks something like this. And our team is trained and ready to help you through this. Is what does a cash flow projection look like for your business, right? So as we reopen, or if you go from a skeleton crew to slowly start to reopening, we're obviously not going to go from 0 to back to 100% of what our sales were last year at this time. So if you're opening up now in May, you're opening up in June, what is that going to look like for your business if your sales are at 25%, if your sales are at 50%? If over the next 3 to 6 months, we're only going to get back up to 50%, what does that look like for my business? Do I maybe don't carry as much inventory as I had previously? Maybe I can't bring back all of my employees. Maybe I need to rework and continue to have that conversation about my lease. So I really want you to kind of think through and plot this out. Nothing tells you more about your business than numbers. And so I really want to work with you through this as to what this is going to look like. Now it's your people, right? As we bring our employees back, it is so vitally important that you know what you're bringing back. So first of all, this is the predicted unemployment rate for 2020 as we go through this, right? So if 1 in 3 people is unemployed, we're going to have, a very large pool of people that don't have jobs, right? So as you have the ability to bring back people, there's going to be a lot of people to choose from. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we're marrying all that up with potential subsidies that might be available to you. So whether there's a workforce investment board that has some on-the-job tax credits, or the CalCompetes tax credits through the state of California, just to make sure that as you're bringing people back, we're trying to take advantage of everything that's available to you. And then the other thing is, how are we going to train our people and how are we going to retain them, right? So training prior to COVID-19 was one thing, but how are we going to train them now to, make sure that they're properly taken care of, that they're wearing the right PPE if needed, right? Gloves, masks, anything that they might need. But at the same time, how are you making sure that you are taking care of them? So there's implementable pieces that you need to think through. For us, as we bring our employees back, we're making sure that they sign a document every single morning as they come back into work that says they don't have a fever, they don't feel sick in any way, and they're signing off on the fact that all of those things that they say are above and true based on that date, to make sure that we're taking away some of the liability out of off of our own plate, and making sure that we're complying with some of the OSHA standards that have been set. So if you need help in understanding that, let me know and we'll help you through that. As we've talked about marketing to your customers, how many of you guys had some way and currently have some way of communicating with your customers right now? The fact maybe you're closed or maybe you're open, but people don't know that. So I always bring back, I have a dry cleaner that sends me an email almost every other day that really talks about, hey, here's how you take care of your clothes. Here's how you can iron them while we're not open. Here's how you can, take care of your mattress or your comforters and different things like that, why we're closed and not able to help you. Do you have that ability to do those same things? Can you communicate with your current customers, and how do you reach out to new ones? So if you don't have that ability, we really want to help you think through a new email marketing strategy, social media strategy. Can people find you online? Something as simple as Google, get your business online, just so that they know that where you're located and your hours. Have you updated those hours if you already are on there, so people know how to reach you? And then have you implemented new things? Things that I've never put into my business that we implemented on Friday when we opened was DoorDash, right? Something I would never think to do. But we had probably 20 sales off of DoorDash, which is a very new technology for us. Maybe not for some of you on this call, but it's thinking through other ways to make sales and other ways to communicate with my current customers and possibly new customers. And then sales, right? So let's go back to our inventory. So if you're a restaurant, how are you going to bring in new inventory? How, are you able to get it, right? So as the food supply becomes shorter and shorter and harder to get, as a restaurant, are you going to be able to get the 55 different ingredients you had prior, or do you need to cut your menus back? If you're going to go from plastic or from silverware to plasticware, how does that happen? And are there enough suppliers? And do you have a supplier that's going to be able to get you what you need, right? As everyone is going from silverware to plasticware. If you sell, you're a brick and mortar retailer, can you get your supplies? I have a Rocky Mountain chocolate factory. Our factory isn't making chocolate right now. They're closed down. So how do I get it? What do I get? And so you need to start thinking through what that's going to look like. So as we look at selling, do you have the ability to sell online and maybe you just never have? If you need help, let us help you build that online strategy. If phone, text, can people get to you? Are you going to take returns, right? So if you're a clothing store, what happens? Are you going to allow people to try on clothing? and what do you do with it to make sure that you've sanitized it for the next person or the person that's ultimately buying this? And then do you have the ability to do cashless transactions? Or are you taking credit cards? And you need to just think through what your customers are going to expect as they come back into your place of business, whether it's an office space, a brick and mortar, a dentist, all those different things. Customer norms are being created right now. So you need to understand what those are. Some ways that you could find out, call your current customers, survey them. We just pushed out a survey I'd be happy to share with you. That's about 25 different questions about what customers are expecting as they come back into the market. So all those different things. And then communication, right? How are you communicating with your current customers? So on the left-hand side, you see, it's just a FaceTime shopping of different advertisements on there. And these are puzzles and how you buy them. On the right-hand side is call this number and I'll bring it out to you, right? So they're giving somebody the ability to still make a sale. So just kind of thinking through different ways that you have and different avenues you have to continue making sales, because that's exactly what we need. We need some capital in your hands. We need you to start generating revenue. So with that, just thinking through what a strategy is going to look like, and then really in summary, let's focus on the things that you can ultimately control. And we need to start projecting, right? What is sales going to look like if we're at 25%, if we're at 50%? Can you make it, right? Do we, and if you can, what is that going to look like for your business as you bring things back? Maybe you cut down on inventory. I've definitely cut down for me on the amount of products that I'm selling. Shorter measurements. Let's measure the next month, the next 2 months, the next 3 months as you reopen. So with that, I'm going to really leave this open for questions and Q&A. But want to bring back Richard onto this as well, so he can ask or answer some questions around economic development and different ways that maybe they're thinking ways that they can help you and assist businesses throughout the county in different things. But I'll leave it at that for now. And then Hannah, if you could ask some of the questions and I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability.
Yes. All right. The first question is, for PPP, do we send the breakdown of how we spent it to the bank that issued it to us in order to be forgiven?
Yes. So you'll work directly with your lender. And you'll send it back to them, and they should be sending you out a sheet so that you can basically put down all of your expenses. So a couple things to think about. If you're getting the PPP funding, one, you definitely will probably want to put it in, if you have the ability to do it, in its own account. So that way you can spend the money out of that. You can take it from, let's just say it was at $25,000 or $50,000. You can spend it all the way down. You have records of every single thing that you spent. Now, if you don't have the ability to do that and you put it into another account, that's quite okay. Just make sure that you are documenting every single thing that you spend and that you have records of everything. And then yes, you'll take all that back, and there's probably going to be a form. And keep in mind, the SBA is still working on what forgiveness looks like and what that worksheet will look like. So we don't actually know the complete rules and regulations yet. So keep everything on record, and your lender will come to you and say, this is what I need back for forgiveness and to clarify forgiveness.
If you are on a work-share unemployment program, can you stay on the unemployment program and use PPP funding for the hours that your employees are working, or do the employees have to work full-time and not receive any unemployment?
So we are still working with the SBA to define that. So I'm going to give you my guesstimation, which again, it's my guesstimation, is that yes, the 50% that you're paying your employees, they would still qualify because it's still a W-2 wage that you're paying. So it should be covered, but the SBA and the Treasury are still working through the definitions. And I apologize for not having the complete answer for you, but there's a lot of unanswered questions for the Paycheck Protection Program still, as we're waiting for final ruling on a lot of things. But I would expect for you to, yes, to be able to cover the 50% that you're on the work share program that you're paying for.
I finally received funds from the PPP, but the amount that we were funded does not cover our rent, and our business is still closed, so we don't have an employee. What do we do with the money if we don't want to use it?
So if you don't want the money and you want to give it back, you have until May 14th to give it back to your lender. So that is the safe harbor date is May 14th. So call your lender and tell them that you don't want this money. If you're struggling to get in touch with them, call me and I'll help you get through that. But yes, you definitely have the ability to give it back if you don't want it.
You had mentioned having employees sign a liability waiver stating that they're good in health per OSHA guidance. Where can I find the guidance, and are there any sample waivers for employers to look at as a reference?
Absolutely. And with this this whole presentation that we're doing today, we're going to email you this presentation. I will also send some of the different forms and things that have been created. Most of those things go from OSHA to the governor's office, and the governor's office is creating different templates, and standards of expectation based on industries or based on phases and stages that you saw earlier. And so those will all be available to you, but I'll send them to you. And then if you need additional assistance, let me know. But it's just making sure that you're building out strong employee protocols and processes and procedures to make sure that you're, one, covering yourself, and two, also covering your employees to make sure that if they're coming in sick, that they go back home, that they're not infecting your entire workforce.
Is rent considered under the 75% that is forgivable? And if we decide to pay 6 months of advance, will that be okay?
So you can't pay advance like that. You can pay a little bit more to your employees than you were paying before, but you can't just give them a 6-month advance like that. And rent is not part of the 75%, it's part of the 25% additional. So let me just break that down a little bit. So the calculation for PPP, let's just say you got $100,000. 75% or $75,000 has to go to payroll. It can also go to some of the benefits that you have for payroll. The other 25% or $25,000 can go to rent. It can go to your insurance or interest payments, and then utilities and a few other things. So you have to at least get to 75% for it all to be forgiven. And then, yeah.
What if we don't use all the PPP funding in the time allocated? Do you just give the remaining back to the lender?
So no, you don't. So let's assume you got $100,000 and you spent $50,000 of it. The other $50,000 will turn into a 2-year 1% interest loan that you now have to pay back. So yes, you could, in short, if you decided that you didn't want the other $50,000, give it back to the lender, but there will be a fee associated with that, as the day you start spending this money is when that 1% interest rate kicks in. So there will be some cost that you'll incur once you take the loan.
Why can hotels host guests, but short-time rentals such as Airbnbs cannot?
I don't know the answer to that, so I'm going to leave that one. I don't know if Richard has any answers for that, but I'll leave it at that. Unfortunately, I don't know the answer.
All right, those are all the questions I have.
Okay, well, perfect. Richard, do you have any kind of ways that people can get in touch with the county economic development team, and maybe possibly some other things that you might have available?
It's in the chat.
Oh, okay, perfect. So it's in the chat box. If you need to get in touch with the county in any way, you can get in touch with us directly as well. We work hand in hand with the county on helping you with your business. So like I said, this entire presentation will be sent to you. If you need any help, our number's right here, but it's 1-800-616-7232, or you can go to ociesmallbusiness.org. We have centers spread throughout San Bernardino County. So if you need help or an assistance, we're here to help you. Like I said, we have 100+ consultants. We are all business owners going through some of these same exact things, but we've really tried to educate ourselves as to the different forms and different ways to help you, obviously around cash and your people and your customers, and really trying to help you build that recovery plan, but then also working through some of these different loans. So you should receive this presentation no later than tomorrow at the same time. So with that, thank you so much, Supervisor, for allowing us to be on. And thank you to everybody that joined, and you'll get this shortly. So Supervisor, I'm not sure if you had a few things that you wanted to add. And he might have jumped off already, so that's okay. So with that, thank you so much, and we will send this out to you as soon as we get it.